organized in collaboration with Cuthbert Malindi, who is the director of Ungano Events Management, Hilda Nielsen, and Chewe Chileshi, and myself. The aim is to broaden the scope of Zambian entrepreneurship, and so we are hosting chats and conversations with fellow Zambians who are in the entrepreneurship sector. So whether they're starting or far ahead, we want to learn from each other and want to demystify entrepreneurship. So I'm really delighted today to be hosting a woman who has walked the talk and established an amazing organization called My Perfect Speech. So Ruth Kayira Mooto is started her career from the public service and has gone on to become an award-winning entrepreneur, a creative strategist, and My Perfect Stitch is a design and manufacturing company that blends African craftsmanship with world-class standards. So she transitioned from public service into full entrepreneurship, not partially like some of us. And she has scaled from one sewing machine to factory sewing, serving corporations, as well as NGOs, institutions. She blends business discipline, creativity, and a commitment to building African brands that are both soulful and scalable. Ruth, welcome to ZamPulse Chats.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's lovely and actually an honor to have you fresh off of your TED Talk. Let's start from the basics. You got gifted a sewing machine and you decided this just can't be a hobby. Walk us through that journey, especially where you have a sewing machine and you're still in public service. What were the variables there?
So it wasn't even supposed to be a business. We were not supposed to be here. It was supposed to be just something that you do, like the way we grew up. Our mothers had sewing machines and don't make us skirts, or there was hair mawachitenges or something. And for me, that's exactly what it was. It was just something that I wanted to do in my spare time, like make myself dresses, make myself skirts. And then when I started having children, start making stuff for them. But then it turned out to be more. So it was one of those things where one thing leads to another, and then you make yourself something, you tell your friends, and next thing your friends are like, oh, can you make for me as well? And then you make for your friend, and then their friend is like, oh, that's nice, who made it for you? And slowly just word of mouth starts making you a business even before you realize that that's what it's getting to. So, and what was happening is that during this time, this was 2014, I was working as a health information officer in Ministry of Health, and we were living in Dola. So my husband got a transfer back to Lusaka. And what we decided to do was that we'd all move, and I was hoping that I would be able to get a transfer. But then I came to Lusaka, and then you are in Ministry of Health today, you're in Ministry of Health tomorrow. People are telling you you'll be able to get this job, but then nothing is coming up. And my position, the one that I used to have for first and second level hospitals, there's only one person for that position. So it was quite difficult to find a transfer. It would either be someone is moving to my position and then I take up their space. And so I just decided, okay, maybe let me just resign, and then maybe I'll find another job. I'll see what I'll do. And so I resigned, and then I found myself with more time. So I said, okay, yes, I'm still applying for jobs. I can be sewing. And then I would sew. And mostly it was just like, okay, let me just try out something. And I'll try out something and I'll tell my friends, and they'll be like, oh, this is nice. I have someone who's traveling. Can you make 5 for them? And slowly that's how it became more of it can actually be an actual thing. And then I'd also record. So I'd say, okay, I spend maybe 20 kwacha to do this, and I sold it for 75 kwacha. Then I'll be like, oh, so there's a level of tangibility around this. Like I can be able to actually make money. And that's how we got to start a business out of it.
Okay, great. And then you also have spoken about specific action. So you did that, and actually, I love that when you talk about the first time you played around with a sewing machine, you got a perfect stitch, and that's what birthed the
yes,
we have it now.
yes.
Yeah. But what about the tools? Because you spoke about some actions and some tools that you decide. How did you come upon the tools that could help you scale this into an actual business?
I think one of my key strengths is that I'm an active learner. So I'm always looking for any opportunity to learn. And I remember when I made a conscious decision that I would make this a job, it was one of those things of, if it's going to be a job, does that mean I'm going to earn what I used to earn when I used to work for Ministry of Health? And what does that look like? So in my creativity, I like to say that I'm also quite practical, because I'm always looking at what does the outcome look like. So if I like this and I want it to work, at the end of the day, what does it look like? And so for me, what I knew was that the business landscape wasn't something I was familiar with. And so I started asking my friends. It'd be like, okay, I want to understand, like, are they fashion designers? I remember Chisoma then was doing Chizo designs. And I was particularly interested in like things that are fashion related. And I reached out to her and I said, oh, I noticed that you have this brand and you have quite a traction. Can you teach me how to run a fashion business? Because when I started, I used to make clothes. And she created time for me. And so I went and then I'd ask her questions and then she gave me some pointers. From there, I was like, okay, this could work. And then I went to someone else and I said, okay, I need to have a way or an understanding of how you create a business. What do I have to do? And someone mentioned, oh, there are these guys who run Bongo Hive, and then they have these different things that they talk about. Like if you have an idea or you have an actual business, that they'll walk you through. So I went to them and I said, okay, this is what I have, what I'm thinking about. Can you walk me through? They told me, okay, you have to apply for the program, which I did, and I got into the program. And even in the program, what happened is that they had a list of mentors who would come like on different aspects. So like things like statutories, things like just understanding like your supply chain management, things like understanding your numbers, things like marketing, things like just how to describe your brand. So even from there, it was like, okay, having to pick up things and saying, I want to grow. And so when someone says, do this, I would go and do it and say, okay, let me find the result for myself and see how that works.
I love that journey. That's one thing that we hear of, I think, from most of the people we've been speaking to on ZamPulse Chats. It's always identify somebody who's been through that path or somebody who's got an expertise where you're lacking. With the Bongo Hive bit, lovely to hear. In fact, that's how I first encountered you. I haven't met you before. I went to Sister Munza at Bongo Hive and there was some work there. And then I was amazed at the beautiful work that's in the space. So I didn't know you made clothes to start with, but I think and said, yeah. So that work you did yourself, you moved from clothes to spaces.
Yes. So when I started, I think ideally I started sewing because I wanted to make myself clothes. So even when I went to Bongo Hive, I was making clothes, but I still had an interest with other things. So like I had an interest around bags. I had an interest around cushions. I remember I even started making baby beddings at some point. So I knew like my core interest wasn't only clothes. For me, it was just when I sit on a sewing machine, what other products or what products can I make? And so I was always on an experimental journey, if I can put it like that. And so I remember I used to make these little clutches, which had upholstery fabric and chitenge fabric on. And someone bought and went to a wedding with it. And they're sitting, so you know, like how you are sitting on a table at a wedding and then they placed it. And then this person was like, oh, this is quite nice. Do you think this person could make a stew out of chitenge?
All right. Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, so they sent me a message.
Someone in your background, Ruth. There's a bit of noise, feedback that's coming. Is it your background? or somebody on the call. Chewe, could you check? There's some feedback coming from somebody on the call. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, apologies for that. Go ahead.
No worries. Yeah. So
somebody asked for stool, you say, yeah.
Yes, so they asked because of the type of fabric that I had used, because it was chair fabric. And so when someone came in, they said, oh, you used upholstery fabric for this. Could you make a stool? So I said, yes. And they said, we've noticed like Pinterest has this Ankara stools. So I said, oh, okay, let me see. And so I looked at it and I said, oh, this looks doable. And it was just like, and for me, all the time, I'm always like, if I'm gonna I think it's Eric. Eric's mic is on.
Eric, could you mute yourself? Eric, could you mute yourself, please? I'm struggling. Chewe, could you mute Eric for us, please?
It's not allowing me to mute him, so I might have to kick him.
Okay, thank you very much. Apologies for that, Ruth. Please proceed.
No worries. Yeah, so for me, I think like every time someone asks me for something, I'm always looking at who can do it. It's very rare that I would think that I can do it myself, because I feel like I know what my strengths are. And one of my strengths is finding someone to do the job.
But you have the visuals and the
so like for me, I just know how something should look like. Like I know how it should be, how the measurements should be, how the fabrics should be laid out and everything. And so when I got this request, I went to Kamwala Market and I found a carpenter and I said, I'm looking to make the stews and this is what the dimension look like. And I said, but instead of us using upholstery fabric, we're going to use chitenge. And I remember he was standing with other carpenters and they laughed. They said, no one uses chitenge to make stews. And I was just like, no, like, let's try. If we can get this right, then maybe we're onto something. And the man was willing. So he said, sure, no problem. Let's try it. He tried it. It didn't work out. I went back and I said, okay, what if we do it like this? And it came out and it was really nice. And I delivered the stews. And the lady was like, oh, these are nice. Can you upholster my chairs? So I went back to the carpenter and I said, can you upholster chairs? And he was like, yes. So I was like, okay. So I went back and then he told me the cost and I was like, okay, I'm going to need to hire a canter. I'm going to need to make a little extra money out of this. So how much is he charging me? I got the price and I said, okay, this is how much transportation and logistics will cost and this is what my margin would be. So I was going back home to sit on my machine to continue making dresses and baby beddings. And somehow I'd already started getting into this furniture business. Right. And maybe like 2 years later, I was reupholstering someone else's chairs and I was going to deliver. I got to their house and they're like, oh, I love my chairs, but I don't think the way I had arranged them is going to work. Can you help me arrange my house? And I'm just like, I have no idea how to do this. Like, just help me. And I said, okay. And for some reason, I just go to the functionality and I'm just like, okay, when you walk in, how are you walking in? When you sit, how do you want to stand up? Who are you talking to in your living room? And I started to realize that I actually understood how people should function in a space. And then I started reading about it. So I was like, okay, this is how residential spaces work. This is how commercial spaces work. And I found every time I did anything furniture related, the clients would always ask me to do something space related. And that's how, at the end of the day, we ended up having bags, furniture, and spaces.
Amazing, amazing. Can I just check with you on the, those initial stages when you were being mentored or at least helped by Bongo Hive? Was there a moment or through the journey up to that point, was there a moment where you were able to test and validate your market, or were you still just chasing something not yet fully formed?
So one of the things, because even when I went in, there was Discover, then there was Launch. So I went in on Launch. Discover was a program. I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but Discover was, I had this idea and it could be. And Launch is, I already have the product and I'm selling it, but I think it can scale. And I remember my main product was dresses, happy dresses. And I remember doing a session with Munza. and we went through, like, you have, like the whole journey where you create your persona and then understand your customer journey and then understand what your unique value proposition is. So we did all that. And one of the things that we would do during the sessions was you have to go out to the market and ask them if they really appreciate your product and if there's need for it, because are you actually solving a problem? Especially in a space where it's already a crowded market. Like then there were so many fashion designers. They're not there as much now, but there were so many fashion designers. So it was like, how do we make this idea very concrete that you will continue having your revenue coming in? So I would go out and like people would buy my dresses and I would go and ask them, like, how do you feel when you wear this dress? What do you like about the process of this dress? What do you like about the fabrics? And for me, like, my fashion idea was every time we get fabric, we go to the tailor and then we make tailor-made clothes. I wanted to be able to create a situation where women would be able to get clothes off the rack, but they're in African print. And so even when I started doing that, it was just like, just tell me your size. You're a size 14. Okay, I'll bring a happy dress to you. So even when we're creating the designs for that, it was like, what type of design can I make where someone doesn't have to do alterations? So you knew, like, okay, it had elastic, it was flared, so it's not body fitting. So I won't have issues where the breast it's not fitting well, on the hips it's not fitting well. But it was like working around that. But then I realized that we didn't have the full capacity to be able to supply according to the demand that was coming for us. That was one, because I had to be able to teach people how to make the product. But then also I realized that it wasn't only about telling people that we have this product and you can buy it. It was also a mindset shift, making women realize that you can buy something off the rack and they don't have to come to you, or they don't have to bring their own fabric. And so it was like a whole cultural and mindset shift. And I was just like, okay, I don't think that I'm at a position where I can fully control the entire production system. And then along this way, I stumbled on bags and I started to experiment on bags.
The famous laptop bags.
Yes, and that's where we came with laptop bags. But for that, because I already had the experience of having contact with your customers and hearing what their feedback was, it was much easier to take that knowledge and transmit it to the bags.
Amazing. So let's talk about, so you actually have a manufacturing facility, so that journey became something bigger, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah? Yes. So what came first, the investment or the growth? And then you're like, oops, I need a manufacturing facility. What was that transition like?
So I got investment in 2018. It was $20,000. And I like to call it that it was like an early marriage type of situation. So even now, when I think about it, I advocate for people to get funding once they fully understand what their business model is and how they're going to make money. So I met some investors and we were talking, and by then, like, I had the idea of how our clothes could be. We had, I think by then I had maybe 2 machines. And my explanation was that if I add on more machines, then I can have more tailors, and then I can produce more dresses, and then I can have more clients, and then I can have more sales. And I remember then, I think I was selling maybe 3 dresses a week, which was translating to like 12 dresses in a month. And I was telling myself, like, if we could move to like 25 dresses in a month, would be good. But then I didn't understand like all the other nitty gritties around everything else, like what it takes to run the full operations of a business. Sometimes we are very fixated on, this is how much money it takes for me to buy kitenge, to make it, to pay the tailors and to sell. But then there's these other things that roaming around. So when I got the investment, ideally we're supposed to get in total $50,000, which was supposed to help us expand the total number of machines. I think we're supposed to go to like 15 machines and then have a bigger space and then hire more people. But we had some conditions for the next 20,000 and eventually for the 10,000. And these conditions were
so
that
hang
I was
on,
supposed
just to be
make
clear, just to be clear there, so the investment you got had it was not just the initial 20,000, you had 20,000 and another 10 to follow. Is that right? To help with the different stages.
50,000. Yes, it was supposed to be 50,000 in total, but it would be like 20 and then a 10 that follows, but it had conditions.
Okay.
So I was supposed to meet a certain revenue target after, I think it was after 3 months, and then grow it to a certain amount. And then once that comes in, then the next amount of money would come. But then I didn't understand my finances. So I didn't know how you calculate certain things. I didn't understand like what is the entire thing that needs to happen for you to actually meet your sales goals. I didn't understand like a number of things in the process. Just give me a moment. Sorry. Julia, I'm on a call. Yes, please.
That's good juggling, yeah. That's absolutely fine, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. So it ended up like it really frustrated me because at this point I'm just like, you expect me to do reports and I don't understand like how to even create these reports that you want. And then I'm supposed to hire people and tell them what exactly they're supposed to do. So I didn't have a functional team around me during this time. So even having to say that I'm actually going to grow to this point in the next 3 to 6 months, it was just from a very dreamy point, if I can use that, because I didn't understand like all the things that need to happen. And also I realized over time that the investors that I had got, they were not, what's the word I'm looking for? They had no much knowledge around how to grow a fashion business. So it's not like they had worked with a fashion designer or a fashion business before. Right. So it's like both of us were learning this industry. So it would be, I got the money, but then it would be like there's a certain level of coaching and mentorship that I'm looking for from these new partners that I've got who've been running businesses for a while. But I can't seem to, I don't even know what questions to ask them. And then they're like, we don't also know like what a Zambian landscape looks like for fashion businesses and what that looks like. So eventually the 20,000 never came. Okay. And the 10. So everything else after that, it was just like, okay, let's figure this out.
So had you already found a facility though? Had you already started?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so there was the
so I was already operating from away from my house. So I worked at my house maybe for a year and a half. And then I decided to take the leap and say, okay, for me to be able to scale and actually see that I run a tangible business, I need to actually operate from a facility where I'm paying rent, I'm seeing all the things that need to be done. I'm on a call, please. Sorry.
Being mommy.
But yes, so it was having to basically work out a number of things and understanding like, why does a business need money and where does the money go? So you have your cycle for salaries. How do you ensure that comes? You have your cycle for having materials come in. And then the transition to even start working with corporates. Then you go into they don't pay you immediately. They pay you after 30 days or they pay you after 60 days. What does that look like? So it was a lot of learning. So even when this money came in, it was having to put money in something that you are not even sure of. So it was just like having to figure out a lot of things. I don't know if that answers the
It absolutely does, and comes back to the point that I think both you and I were raising earlier about how important it is to have people who've been there before that you
Yes.
can reflect you can that can guide you or help you in that journey. Let's talk about your the critical element. So I know you kind of stumbled into the well, instead of just making a dress, I'm going to make a purse. You started to move, but how, on the whole, now that you have a whole manufacturing facility, how did you decide on the multiple items that you now specialize in? How did you arrive at that?
Okay. So now we're a bag manufacturing business. We're a custom furniture business, and we're an interior design business. So we have 3 different categories under this one bracket. First of all, it was with the bags, it was having to transition.
Right.
And this transition happened with having to sit and look at the products that we offer, who we offer it to, and how much income it brings us. And also having to fully understand like which customer gives us the most for least effort, if I can put it like that. So it was having to fully understand like what is the process that goes into this tailoring business. And what I found was that when we were making our happy dresses, the same thing that I was saying, like a cultural shift or mindset shift. What happens is that as a people, we commit, if I can use that. So when we find the tailor who we like and they do a good job, we commit to that tailor. And so even though they only offer one thing, we want to bring everything else to them. So for us, it's like we had good clients for our happy dresses, but then the same clients wanted now to bring, they wanted shorts to be made whenever they were going for a vacation. They wanted jackets to be made when they were going for a meeting. They wanted now dresses for the entire family. And we started doing that, but we realized that we were not good at it. So someone would have a perfect dress, but horrible shorts. And then the feedback would be, my perfect stitch didn't do a good job. And one of the things that we've worked hard for as a brand is that we really want our customers to have a great experience. And one of the ways that we actually get work is that we do it through word of mouth. So people who have great experiences tell other people. That's how a lot of our business comes in. And so we started to realize that a lot of people were unhappy with the product that was not our core product, but also the turnaround time. So someone would come in and say they want shorts, and we agree, and we're selling the shorts for 250 kwacha, but it's custom made. And then they try it on, it doesn't fit. So ideally, shorts that would take 3 days to make now are taking 3 weeks to make because we're doing back and forth. And the price is not changing. So it's 250. That would have been 3 days. Now it's over three weeks. And we're losing money. And also, we also started looking at what is it that other tailors are not doing or other designers are not doing. So when I stumbled on the bag, and started experimenting, I realized that customers would come to us and say, oh, I'm traveling and I'd like gifts. They're easy to carry. Or we're having this end of year. We don't have an idea of what to give our employees. Can you make bags for us? And it would be, oh, we're having people come in from group. It's 6 people. We want to give them something that feels Zambian. Can you give us that? So like from what people would say to us, we started to realize that, oh, this could actually be a thing. But what laptop bags provided for us was that we didn't have the level of customization that we had for clothes. So it wasn't different size bodies that we're working in. And we were not having to redo something. Like it was something that gave us a process. And in production, once you have a process, everything else becomes easier because my first point is doing this, my second point is doing this, my third point. And even when it comes to customization, it's like, oh, what are we customizing? Or they have these logos, or they want it to look like a certain way. And it was like, okay, then if we're doing this, what is the lowest number we can do? okay, it's organizations, it means that we can give them a lowest quantity order. But then that started giving us a direction in knowing that we could actually have stable revenue that could come in from this process we had created. And there was
so was that a consistent run then? Like that became
yes,
a consistent thing for you?
It became a consistent run, yes. And so now it was like, okay, so we're offering a number of these things from this tailoring department. What are the things we should start cutting off so that we start concentrating on something? And also you want your business to be known for something. And so that's how slowly we started cutting off clothes. It was a long process. I think it took us almost 3 years. I remember I even did an announcement and I said, we no longer make clothes. And people were like, but what do you mean? I've been making clothes with you. And then you'd go back because it's your client, you are attached to them. Until eventually it was just like, you know what? We don't make clothes.
We don't make clothes any longer.
We don't make clothes anymore, yes. And from there, once we fully understood what our process was, even the training of staff becomes easier because they know that, okay, when I'm making a laptop bag, this is my process, this is my pattern, this is what I need to do, and this is where I'm going. And then we also realized that for furniture, it was very easy to understand like what our profit margin is. So we know, okay, people come in, what do they come in for? And we realized that people were coming in more for the reupholstery than they were coming in to have ready-made sofas. Custom-made sofas. So we're like, okay, so we do realize that there's a gap here, but also it's also having to see how are other people approaching this business. So you'd find people would complain and say, I took my chair to these people, I tried to reupholster it, they just made it worse. And for us to be like, okay, we have to pay particular attention, understand what the issues are. So even when a client is coming in, we want to offer them something that they would be able to trust us with their money. And then interior design also came in because it was like, how do we understand? So generally, as a full business, we like to consider ourselves as brand partners. Like we are your partners to help you with what it is that you want. Either if it's corporate gifting with our bags, either it's fixing your chairs because they are sentimental, you don't want to throw them away, or it was an investment and you don't want to spend so much money. We want to help you. And then even when it comes to interior design, we want to be able to create a space, if it's a home, where you are at home. When you arrive, you understand like, okay, I'm at home. The way my sofa sit, that's how I am when I'm at home, when I'm hosting and doing whatever. The whole planning that comes around space planning. Even as an organization, like by the time we're designing something for you, we understand you as a brand and we understand the type of engagement that happens in that space. So that's how we
journey that's personalized. The journey is personalized to the client.
Yes.
Is it so? Are you still, because you started out with the identity question, like you wanted the Chitenge to be? Is that what all your furniture is now, and your spaces work?
No. So for furniture, not all of it. So when we're doing custom made furniture, that one, like when we're making from scratch, I always try to infuse it in, like all the time, because what will happen is that the client will come and then they'll request for a concept. So in the concept, then I'll explain, this is what I think that you'd be able to look like, and this is the things that we can do for you. And I always put in, because I'm always like, if you are a bank and you are operating in Zambia, there should be something that screams Zambian about you. If you are whatever sector, you're in the energy sector, you're in the mining sector, there should still be something that shows. And being Zambian is not only copper, like everywhere you go, there's thing is, how do we bring that into your space? And that's where usually the incorporating would be. But also what has happened over time is that we're known as a brand that uses Chitenge. So even when people are sorting us out, they are coming to look for us because of that heritage thing that we bring to the things that we design. We still have clients who come to us because of the quality that we give. So it would be, I want to reupholster my chairs, but I want it in gray. So you can't fight them and say, let me give you an orange Chitenge. You're going to work with them and say, okay, the gray is fine. We're going to offer you the gray and we'll do the chair, and we just make sure that we put in time and effort in it.
Lovely. So thanks so much to everyone who has just joined us. We are speaking to Ruth Mooto, who is the founder and CEO for My Perfect Stitch. Today's topic is From Stitch to Scale, Ruth Mooto on building bold brands with creative purpose. And that brings me to one thing. A little birdie said you created something for Prince Harry. How true is that?
As true as you heard it.
Okay, tell me that story. I'm intrigued. And how has that helped shape your business since?
It was a Bongo Hive moment. I think over time, one of the things that I'm actually quite grateful for is the relationship that I was able to create with Bongo Hive, and it actually did open up a number of opportunities for us. And also, I feel like Bongo Hive gave us opportunities to be and to experiment and to trust ourselves as a brand.
Yeah.
As a business. So that should have been 2018, I think. 2018 when he came to Zambia, and I got a call that they wanted me to just create ambience. Like, we're having high delegation coming in and would like you to create something that shows that they have come to Zambia and do your thing. And most of the time, I don't know if it's a good thing or it's a bad thing, but a lot of our clients come to us with "do your thing." And I'm like,
hit on this.
No. Yeah. So I asked, I said, who is it? How is it? They said, no, like, we can't give you information, but they're coming on this particular day. So can you create something? So I said, okay, I need to know, like, how many people are coming? How long is this thing going to be and whatnot? And so I said, okay, are they going to be sitting? Are they going to be doing what? And so for me, it was like, okay, let me showcase what it would look like if the world existed in a place where space was made out of chitenge. And so I just went into that space. So I said, okay, they're obviously going to sit. And a lot of the things that we were creating then were very rustic. So it was rustic and chitenge. So I said, okay, let me see. And for the rustic part, it was just like being able to show wood in its full natural state. And so I said, okay, and Zambia is known for beautiful wood. So I created a small little table with 3 stumps of mukwa. And then I got chitenge and I made like a three-seater sofa. And by then we also used to make tire stews. And so I got like tire stews, and it was like, okay, I'll have it in chitenge, but also tire stews are being made as storage. So like, I wanted to be something that showcases just like recycling and sustainability and everything. And then we made little tote bags for like where all the gifts will be. So like every single turn that you make, there's some chitenge thing happening, and also like the choice of color and whatnot. And I know I keep saying we used to make it because we've also streamlined like our product offering. So it's certain things we used to do before that we're not necessarily doing now. But the whole experience for us as a business was, first of all, like, whether you know who's coming or not, how do you present yourself as a business? Because we were only told that it was Prince Harry, I think maybe like 2-3 days before the actual event. And by
you'd already done your stuff? Had you already done your stuff?
Yes, I had already done, yes. Yeah. So it was quite an experience.
Right. Okay. So with your growth, I was wondering, how are you, because you're expanding, I think, even across the continent, well, at least some parts of the continent. My Perfect Stitch is getting known and people are buying your products. I'm wondering, how do you compete in markets where cheaper, lower quality imports are widely available? In fact, Zambia is one of them anyway. Yeah.
Yes. So one of the things that we have done in the differentiating of our products is we take time to understand our clients. And we know that not every single person is our client. So it's the fact that our products they're not very expensive, but they're averagely priced higher than your normal. Like if you come and you go to East Park at the Sunday market, what you find there is going to be way cheaper than what we're going to offer. And so it's always a thing of what is the value that we're putting in the products that we're making. And we totally believe in repeat business. And we know that if someone messes you up with the first order, you're not going to go back to them. And it's something that I keep instilling in the members of staff at My Perfect Stitch. It's when you're making something, pay attention to it so that when someone buys it, they know that it's worth what they're buying it for. And also being quite stubborn. I've had instances where a lot of people have told us not to use Chitenge for stuff. And for me, it's always like, it's part of the brand. So when you're coming to My Perfect Stitch to buy something, that's what you are coming to buy. And it's also the messaging, like being very clear with the messaging. As My Perfect Stitch, we make high quality products, and we make high quality products locally. For a long time, people they used to think that would buy laptop bags and then would only add chitenge, because there was a certain time when it was a trend to get fabric and just add it onto something. But for us, like, we make stuff from scratch. So you know that it's actually handmade. Someone cut, someone went and they started stitching, someone put it together. We put a logo. There's a lot of thought that has come into it. And also it's long lasting. There are people who bought our first laptop bags in 2017, 2018, and they still have them now. So it's one of those things, like, and they become our ambassadors. So they tell other people. I remember I was attending a meeting this week or last week where we're pitching our bags, and two people in the room were like, I have these bags, I use them everywhere, and my laptop, so like whatever price she's asking for, give her, because when Ruth says that she's going to deliver, she will. And so for us, that is the thing that we stand on. Like, we give our word and we say we're going to deliver, and we'll deliver a great product. So if you can't afford us, we'll wait for you. I always tell people,
when you can afford to come back.
Like, when you're ready, I'll be here. Like, I'm not going anywhere. So if you're ready for me in the next 2 years, I'll be here. I'm not going to reduce the price, because I understand the number of things that go into creating this. And I would like you to be as happy with the products that you are getting, and me to be as happy with the value that I'm actually receiving from you.
Good. So there's a story you tell about the one time you needed to make adjustments with the laptop bags themselves. So maybe the first question is it the people you started with, that, you know, the small craftsmen here and there that you worked with before, that now comprises of your now, it's no longer 9 staff, you've got about 20 staff. Is that whom you've been working with? And is that where these lessons about adjusting to meet client needs have taken place?
I still have a number of people that I started with in 2016. They're still members of my staff. But with adjusting, let me talk about the adjusting of the laptop bags. It's twofold. So it's from the customer's experience, but also from the team. You will find that the local crafts people, most of them have never been to school. So they've never gone into a classroom where they're taught how to cut or how to create a pattern or how to do this. This is skills that they pick on, either from their aunt, their uncle, or something, because they stayed in the tailoring shop and they started seeing, and eventually they knew how to sit on a machine. So when I hired my first staff, the very first person I had came from a trade school. And that was the direction I took, because I was like, okay, if you've gone to a trade school, you must know how to do this. But when I hired her, she didn't understand. Like, she didn't know. And for me, it was just like, you are the tailor between us. So this is a pattern I want, so make it. And I realized that she didn't know what she was doing. So I let her go. Then I hired these 2 gentlemen. And one of them was very good with work suits, and the other one was very good with creating anything woman related. He was like, his hands were pure gold. When I started making bags, they had never made bags before. So it was like having to meet them. where they know and starting to teach them what they can know. So I know you know how to sew. I know you can run a machine, and I know you can do all these things. Now, I want to introduce a new product. So let's do it together. So a lot of it was being done collaboratively. So it'll be like, okay, this is how it looks like. So let's measure it. And we start creating a pattern out of it and say, okay, now we've created it. It looks like this. Okay, first product is out. What do we think? Okay, it looks okay. And then someone would buy it, and then they'll be like, I carried my bag and the handle came out. Then I'd go back and say, okay, guys, the handle came out. We didn't do something right. Then it'll be like, okay, madam, maybe that double stitch. Okay. So you do double stitch. And then someone carries it and say, no, you know, I put my laptop and I put my diary and I put my cables, and both handles just fail. So I'm like, okay, here we're not doing good. So can we move it? And so that's what was happening. So it was feedback from the clients and how they're experiencing the product, and then having to go back with the tailors and say, okay, what is happening? What works best? And then also having to read, because I haven't studied fashion design. So a lot of the things that I know is like, I'll go back and say, okay, how is a backpack made? And then I'll sit and watch videos and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is what they do. What machine do they use? Oh, there's a batak machine. Oh, nice. That's what makes that thing firm. Okay, so this is what I do. I don't have this machine. What can I do? Then you go back to the guys and say, okay, guys, the reason this is happening is because we didn't pay attention to this detail. So can we move it? And over time, those are the adjustments that we've been making.
Okay, so the product is now something satisfactory, something that you know will last and it's worth its money. Right. Okay, I'll ask you one question, then I'm going to invite people on the call to either type questions or raise their hands, and then we'll take some questions from people. What's the boldest financial move you've had to make, or what risk rather that you've taken in this business?
I would say that when I think about when I was coming, I was asking my husband, I said, what is the boldest thing that I've ever done? I honestly think that just getting an office space, because I used to work from a spare bedroom. I remember like when we had actually moved to a bigger house, because I had told him that I wanted to have one bedroom, which would become my workspace. And then I realized that there was traffic in and out, and people think that you work 7 days a week when you work from home. But then I had said, okay, I'm going to move. And that was 2017 into 2018. And I was making, I think, like 20,000 a month. And this 20,000 was just the revenue. It was just, you know, like you count all the customers you had, you have 20,000. But my husband was paying the workers. So I was like, when he gets paid, and I'll be like, can I use your ATM? Just I'm asking for a 4-pin. And then I'll pay the people. And when the move happened, that's when I realized that I was running a non-profit business. Like I was not making money. I knew nothing about numbers. I knew nothing about actual liquid. You know, like there's a difference between money on paper and money in your hands.
Liquid, yeah.
So that move, I'm so glad it happened when it happened, because I think that if I had stayed on, I don't think I would have made the progress that I've made with the business. And also that forced me to start to understand what having operational costs looks like, and when you need capital to come in, and what type of capital is. And I remember, like, after I'd moved, I even started looking for a loan, and the loan didn't even come through. Like I moved, I couldn't afford the rent, I couldn't afford to pay salaries. I think I was paying people in the next month, maybe 15 days later. And then like 4 months later, I was looking for a loan and it didn't come through. But it made me realize that as a business, you need to have your papers in order, like just having to fully understand. And so this is what it looks like. This is how you need to sell. This is what your end of the month should look like. Even when you are requesting for either funding or you're looking for a loan, there's certain type of formalization you need. And if I hadn't moved, I would have never known those things and that they were important.
Okay, lovely. Let's see if we can get some audience questions in. Does anybody have a question that they would like to ask our guest today? I'll just remove the spotlights from you and I so we can see more people. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. So for those asking me privately if we're going to share the recording, yes, it's currently live on YouTube, by the way, but we will share the recording, and thanks so much for joining us. But is there anyone with a question for Ruth, or can I just go ahead? Casper, are you still there? Okay,
Yes, I am.
Yeah, do you have any questions for our guest, Casper? Do you have any questions for our guest?
No, I've been listening. Very, very, very interesting. But maybe the question I would ask Ruth is really, I mean, being an entrepreneur myself, every entrepreneur has a story of what the lowest point was and how they got themselves off the ground to go back and try again. So really, that would be my question. Is what would you give an example of as your lowest point, and how you got out of that?
Did you want to take that one now, Ruth? What was your lowest point and how did you get out of it?
I've had quite a number. But like I have one that really stands out for me, and I think it's one of the reasons why I keep going. I remember, I think maybe it was in 2019. Business was quite difficult, and I think load shedding had become worse, and I wasn't just having like as much business coming in, and also payments were quite late. So I think that month I might have paid people maybe like the 20th of the following month or something. But I remember I got home and I couldn't sleep. And I think like at midnight, one of my members of staff called me and he complained, and he said, I come to work every day and I do the work that you ask me to do. And I have had work. Why aren't I getting paid? Like my children are hungry. I haven't paid the rent, and they can even chase me out of the house. And my children know that I come to work every day. Why aren't I paid? And I didn't have an answer. And having to sit there and realize that when you become an entrepreneur, you literally, and you are having people come to work for you, you take on the responsibility of many families. Yeah. And so you don't, like, it's not a joke. You're not going to play. You're not going to feel nice about the product that you make. Like, there's a lot of underlying things. And for a while, it felt nice that you have a nice product that you make and people buy it and they like it and they talk about it. But then at the core of it, when you become an entrepreneur, you are actually making a difference in your community. The people who work for you, the people who actually create these products, they are a very vital element of your business, and you have to take care of your people. Yeah. And for me, I think that was the thing. I had a mentor of mine who had told me and said, whatever you do, make sure that you pay the people and you pay the rent. And then I was like, yeah, I'll always make. But then I think that moment really, it solidified that you can't exist without people. Like, people need to feel secure where they come to work. And yeah.
Oh, wow.
I would say that's one of my lowest moments.
Yeah. Casper, you're good with that? I have a...
Yeah, very good answer. I think quite, I was listening to you there and I can relate to a lot of that. Yeah, being an entrepreneur sometimes can be a lonely place because you see everyone wants you to find the solution. They don't really want to hear stories. And sometimes you are the only decision maker at that point. You have to pay salaries or you lose employees. So I can relate to that. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Ruth, I was wondering, you've been speaking about African businesses being both soulful and scalable. What does that actually mean in practice for My Perfect Stitch?
I would say that, well, based on how I've created My Perfect Stitch.
Mm-hmm.
I find that how do I explain this? So we make what we make out of chitenge. And chitenge is, for me, I always say, like, I have a relationship with this fabric. Like, it's what I know. It's what I have grown with. It's what I relate to. So I always give this example of, like, look around you anywhere, there's a piece of chitenge, but even when you bring it into your house, when your mother was pregnant, she was wearing a chitenge. When gave birth, there was a chitenge. As you are growing as a girl, there's a chitenge every single part of your life as a Zambian. It doesn't matter which household, like from the lowest income household to the highest income household, every house has a chitenge.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just like, how do I bring this piece of fabric and interpret it in such a way that any person who holds it, they'll be able to understand a piece of Zambian culture, like, or a piece of someone's experience as a person. And that's where I would say, like, the soulfulness comes from, because someone can be like, me and my mom have this fabric, right? And then when my mother is not there anymore and I look at this dress, it means something because it's something that I shared as a bond with my mother. Someone else can get a fabric and say, oh, this is the fabric that someone used to papa my child with, and every time they would papa the child, she'll stop crying. And so now, how do we get this piece of fabric and turn it into anything? And it represents, like, people carry the laptop bags that we make into boardrooms. They don't even have to say anything, right? I remember I went to...
Ruth, I'm going to stop you because we've got 3 questions and they're coming fast and furious now, yet we've got 3 minutes. So try to answer them as quickly as possible. Let's start with Cedric, then we'll go to Peter's and then somebody else's. Cedric, go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. Am I audible?
You are audible. Please go ahead.
All right, thank you. So I'll be quick.
Cedric, we've lost you.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. So let me go to Peter Chanda's question. You mentioned of a point where you did not understand your finances. Could you explain what exactly you did to begin to understand them?
So one of the things that I did was having to, like, write everything down. And so it's like understanding every aspect. So I was understanding, like, okay, how much is chitenge, for example. So I'll be like, okay, if I'm buying a chitenge, it's 150 kwacha. And then I'll go and sit with my tailors and say, how many bags can come out with from 1/6 meter chitenge? So, like, okay, so if I buy it 150 kwacha, and then I cut it 8 bags that are coming from this, what is 150 divided by 8? So what I started doing for myself was just bringing finances in the most basic way that I would understand it. And so just be like, okay, so if it's 150 divided by 8, then I understand that for fabric, this is how much I need. And then what are the other components that come into this? Then the next thing I'll do is like, okay, how much money do I pay people and how many people do I have? And then I'll just add all those things down and then have a number. Then I'll be like, okay, how much is my rent, and have a number. I usually go to Kamwana Market 2 or 3 times in a week. How much gas do I put? So I'll be putting maybe 200 kwacha, 300 kwacha, and then I'll count all those things. And somehow I'd get to a place where I'm like, okay, this is how much I'm spending on materials. This is how much gas I'm spending. This is how much my rent is. And this is how much my salaries are at the end of the month. What does it look like? And so it gives me a figure. And then it'll be like, whatever I do, whoever is coming to talk to me, I need to make at least this amount of money. And then so slowly, that's how I started teaching myself around finances. And then the next thing, it was like, okay, around the 20th, I need to start finding a way of putting money aside. And one of the things that you find a founder's issue is that you don't know the separation of the business money and your money. Fuel has finished, you buy. Mini meal has finished, you are like, okay, I still have change, let me buy. And so I was like, okay, and so opening a business account also helped with that, like having a place where I know, like, okay, from the 20th, I'm putting money aside and I'm not using it. So even though I owe someone, I'll say I don't have money, even though I know that I have money, but it's going through that. And then also the other thing I started doing was having to read basic finance, like at a very, very basic level. So like, how do other businesses look at it? And then slowly I also started looking at courses. There's a course that I did by SCCA, which is Finance for Entrepreneurs and Non-Business Owners. And it's a very good course because it's like very basic, and it moves you from like just having to understand what budgeting is, the type of budgets that are there, how do you get to this point, and then also pricing, how do you price? So for me, it was also like having to understand all my materials and then what is my price, and saying, okay, am I breaking even? What does breaking even mean? So like just teaching yourself, meeting yourself at a place where I know 1 + 1 is equal to 2. How do I translate that based on what I do? If it's a taxi business or whatever business. And from there, also talking to, like, creating relationships with people in different fields is also quite critical. So talking to people who have an understanding like around purchasing, have an understanding like around accounting, just asking those coffee dates. I'm asking, this is how much money I have. And then someone will be like, oh, people owe you, that's called the receivables. And you're like, oh, I've learned something today. And then you go into your understanding, and slowly, like, you get to know, but it's not something that you should avoid, because when you avoid it, it becomes worse. So just, you touch the water a little and slowly you start to understand it. And that's what has worked for me.
Lovely. Can I borrow another 5 minutes from you then, Ruth? Is that okay, just to go through? Gloria would like to know, she says, in your experience, what's the most underestimated challenge founders face after getting initial traction, and how would you prepare for it early?
Please ask that question again.
In your experience, what's the most underestimated challenge founders face after getting initial traction? And then how would you prepare for it early?
I think it would relate to Peter's question. So like, once you start getting traction, you have to understand what you're going to do when that traction doubles, because then it means that the demand is going to grow, and how are you prepared for that? So it comes in with like having to understand fully what your product is, or what your service or your product is, and what it costs to be able to deliver that. Because you don't want to get to a place where you have told people that you exist, and when people come to you, they don't find what it is that you are providing, whether it's due to lack of you not having resources or not having staff to be able to deliver that. And then also, I would say, like, communication with your clients is also quite key, being able to talk to them so that they're giving you honest feedback that should be able to help you grow. Because sometimes, and I think like it's very common on the Zambian market, people will just tell you you're doing well, but they're not giving you the critical feedback that can actually help your traction even become better. I hope that answers your question, Gloria.
I'm going to move on to Cedric Chumas. So Cedric dropped off, but this is the question Cedric had. My question is, how did the relationship with her operational team evolve, and how did she develop with them and keep them committed to the business through highs and lows? Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things about my team is I talk to them. So I've created a relationship where I actually go to the factory floor and I sit and I ask, like, what's the issue? What's happening? Why aren't we making these bags over this period? And also having to understand how they work. So I know I'm not the person who sits on the machine. I can put out directives, but then my directives will not have impact if I'm not getting feedback from them, because they know the turnaround time. That's one. Number two has been meeting them where they are. So that is who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? Who is your family? Like, people should know that you value them beyond just them being your employee who does something. So even like, I have this policy of my door is always open. So if you can't talk to your supervisor, just come and talk to me. But one of the things that I've done even with that is that I've let them know that I will not overrun your supervisor. When your supervisor tells you something, it's their core responsibility to do that. And I want you to understand that in this organization, everyone has everyone's best interest. So if you feel like you cannot work here anymore, just come and tell me, then you can leave. You can find where you need to work. But then let's try to be civil with each other. But also, every time we have a project, we always let them know who the project is for. So if we made a bag for the president, they will know that I made a bag and it went to the president, because that brings pride in them. It's like they can go to their compounds and say, do you know who I am? Me, I made a bag for president. Yes, because one of the things that I've learned is that when you work with people who are almost, I can call it like low-level jobs, even their confidence is low level. And so if you want to make a high quality product, you have to instill confidence in them. And that is telling them that your work is actually valued, your work actually counts for something, and you can actually do good work. And you give them good feedback. Or if it's bad feedback, you go and you say, but you've been sewing for 3 years. There's no way you tell me you sit on a machine every single day and you haven't learned how to do a proper stitch. So what's the issue? Is it that you're using a wrong needle? Is it that your cotton doesn't work? Or is it that you haven't cut properly? So you help them realize that for me to get a good product, there's a process, and I have to learn that process, and you do it with them. And also just moving, because a lot of founders just sit in their office and they don't go to the production place. Understand what it takes to produce what it is that you produce, even though you're not the producer of it. That way, even your team knows that, okay, but boss, she understands what she's talking about, but she'll also ask me on how it is to get there. So it's a collaborative effort.
Wow, just powerful. Ruth, I'm afraid we've come to that time. We've gone past our time. We're usually very disciplined, but can I just say thank you? Thank you so much for making the time for us today.
Sure. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
It's been lovely. And thanks. I'll send you some of the questions that are outstanding. And if you feel like you would like to answer, we'll send them back to the people who've asked in the chat. But thank you so much to everyone who's joined us. Many thanks to Ruth. And also just to say the next ZamPulse Chats is going to be announced shortly. And we look forward to having you. But please support My Perfect Stitch and Ruth Mooto. Good night.
Good night.